Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is the finals of this week's ESL Open Cup for the European server. And with Clem over in South Korea, of course, it can only be these two playing against each other. In the top left hand corner of a map called Amphion, playing with the red Protoss pieces from Denmark, we have none other than MaxPax. His opponent, down in the bottom left, playing with the blue Zerg pieces. He goes by the name of Reynor. I've been really liking watching these two play against each other. It's been some proper high-level StarCraft. I feel like overall, MaxPax is probably, in my mind, when he's like playing well, in my mind, he's the #1 Protoss in the world. And Reynor certainly is incredibly strong in this matchup, but I can imagine he does struggle against the likes of MaxPax, because Max is incredibly good. Like, I've been genuinely impressed by MaxPax. Like, there have been a few games lately where he's just on another level. Like, I see so many games of PvZ in particular, and I'm kind of excited now to see Oracles. I've seen so many games of PvZ where the Zerg players lose like 3 drones in the early game, and that's about it. Somehow, some way, MaxPax has been consistently getting a lot more kills in the earlier stage of the game, just doing a better job microing his army, which is significantly easier said than done. But for some reason, MaxPax has been getting more value out of his early game stuff than anybody else, and it leads to some killer mid games. So let's see. Now, the early game, of course, of Protoss versus Zerg is incredibly well figured out. MaxPax decided to send a probe across the map quickly, blocked the Zerg's natural expansion. For a little bit, Zerg started opening up with a 15 hatch opener, but these days, apparently, that is no longer the cool thing to do. They like getting slapped in the face. They enjoy getting their hatchery blocked. They now just go for the third base instead. Fair enough. Obviously, there are small advantages to this. Creep spread. In general, life is a little bit different, but it's not the biggest of deals at this level of play. Usually, the follow-up is going to be an adept or two. Yep, there it goes. We're going to go for the warp gate research. I don't think he's actually going to finish his upgrade. He's probably going to cancel it right now and go into a Stargate. Yep. It's the simplest of mind games, and it never works. But at this point, it's mostly a habit. If you were to scout something within those 5 seconds of time, at least you've parked your 50-50, your 50 minerals, 50 gas somewhere, and you might win a game or two in about 5,000 games because you did start that upgrade for a little bit and then canceled it. But on this map, it really only makes sense to go for a Stargate opener. Honestly, it makes sense only in every map right now in the current map pool. Lovely positioning right here of that Overlord. This would actually be an annoying thing for Reynor to have to deal with, because the Adept on the high ground could be killing drones. And the only way you can get reliable high ground vision right now is with an Overlord. Slow Zerglings running up there, trying to kill the... Nah, it would be a very annoying thing. So this Overlord, MVP of the Zerg so far. Brenda positioned off creep. There are a couple Zerglings waiting here. Lovely defense so far by Reynor. Gets the kill on one Adept. Yes. Ran the Zerglings back there early too, by the way, which you like to see, because that means that one more Zergling lives, and the Queens were going to be able to secure the kill regardless. Here's the Oracle, though. The very first one. Now, this is already a good start right here for the Zerg, because losing 2 Lings against an Adept just gets the ball rolling. Well, this map, it's not easy for Protoss to take a third. He's going to be going for the one over on the left side. Okay, fair enough. The third base location, though, over here would be a little different. Now, Max decides to activate the pulsar beam on 2 creep tumors. Interesting. It's a play. I don't know if it's good, but it's one of the plays of all time. The thing is, it doesn't really slow down the Zerg very much at all, and it did cost a lot of energy on that Oracle. It doesn't even have enough energy right now to activate the pulsar beam again. It's annoying, but in the early game, you're pretty much always trying to focus on getting kills. So what about this second Oracle? Okay, 2 drones. This is not the start you're hoping for as Protoss whatsoever. Feels to me like if you get less than 5 worker kills against Zerg, you're behind. And it's not like he's made... Reynor, that is. He's been forced to make a lot of army. He's even skipped the Spore over in the third base for now, just because the Queens are parked in this area. So this has been some beautiful early game play right here from Reynor. Just, yeah, practically flawless. Not really making any mistakes. I love the little dance with the slow Zerglings and the Overlord positioning over here. He is gonna get a booming economy going into the mid game. Third Nexus is also a bit later than you ordinarily would want it. Only by about maybe 10-15 seconds or so. Again, not the end of the world, but it's those little things that add up. It's gonna be practically impossible, for example, for MaxPax to do anything about the fourth base. I mean, he could do it like this. Interesting decision here by Max. I feel like MaxPax has decided that he needs to make some plays here. Because he knows that if he doesn't, he's gonna start falling behind. Now, this did distract the queens, and the third of the Oracle group swooped into the third and did get 4 kills. So that wasn't entirely useless. Finally, MaxPax gets something done here, but this early game has not really been going to plan. Blink is coming up. +1 in the Forge is researching. There's a robo facility on the production tab at this point too. I think Reynor can maybe expect a bit of Stalker pressure, but I don't think this is going to be that committed. Although, well, if MaxPax finds an opportunity, he'll be happy to strike. Reynor has decided to go... Ooh, okay. Yeah, these guys have a very good feeling on the matchup, right? So there's definitely a lot of pressure right now on MaxPax's end of things. Like, you can tell by the way he's maneuvering his early game units here that he is feeling like he needs to get something done. And apparently, unit-wise, it's not really been working out that great for him. So he's gonna go straight into the fleet beacon. Extremely quick fleet beacon here. It wasn't the original plan. I don't think this is what he would have done if he would have gotten 12 kills on the drones. But he feels the heat. And I do quite like it, because there are... Okay, so as soon as we get to Lair Tech, right, which we just got to, there are about a dozen viable strategies for Zerg to play. He decides to go straight into the Infestation Pit. We'll have to keep waiting here and see what he's actually going to do. If this is Swarm Host play, I'd be very surprised, but I mean, Zerg players have been doing a little bit of everything as of late. From just straight Roach Ravager pushes to Ling Bane attacks, Swarm Host, Quick Hive together with Lurkers. We have seen a lot of Muta play as well from Reynor. There's a little bit of everything happening in the mid game. He's actually going to try and do a Baneling bust. Reynor may be taking a page out of Dark's book a little bit. Obviously, he recently spent a lot of time in Korea, so maybe he's been studying the plays. I think this is ultimately a Baneling bust into Lurkers, but let's see. Is this good? I mean, +1 melee is done. Great force field. Really good reaction time. Fourth Nexus on the left side of the map is not going to finish. Shield battery overcharge here on the low ground is nice and all, but again, not really the main focus anymore. Great movement here by Protoss though. Like, MaxPax not really losing much up to this point. I love the Photon Cannon over here as well in the back. Oracles are over at the third base, and maybe we should have run these workers a little bit further out. Okay. As the dust settles, 20 probes have gone down. A council on the Nexus. I don't think that was the end of the world, though, for Max. Because he does now get away with some incredibly greedy tech. This tech is difficult to survive with when you do it this quickly, and I think the losses he just took are recoverable. Obviously, Reynor also got the scout off, which is now going to trigger MaxPax to go for this pusher a little bit before he ultimately would have liked to. A lot of Zerglings over here on the high ground, those Oracles from the early game, picking up a couple more kills. Spire is coming. Yep. I think the original plan for MaxPax with these carriers was to try and sit back and suddenly review a bunch of them. Sometimes you can catch a Zerg player off guard without a Spire, even though Hydras and Queens technically shoot up. They're not very good when it comes to anti-air. I mean, they're not bad either, but not nearly as good as Corruptors, for certain. Okay. Yeah, I think this is recoverable right now for Max. Main problem is, where do you take the 4th Nexus now, right? So he decided to go for the one over here. It's a decent position. It's just kind of easy for Reynor to harass. So I think MaxPax will be incredibly focused on staying on the left side of the map, meaning that the entire right side of the map, and Reynor is thinking the same thing, the entire right side of the map is for the Zerg. Adrenal gland's coming up. Spire is just about finished. Reynor currently maxed out though, so not much he can do. Great stasis ward over here. Hydra's in the meantime pushing through the center of the map. A cheeky little zealot run by is gonna move on over towards the right. Fight over here seems to be won by MaxPax, using the force field and the units that he's got once again very effectively. Cybercore goes down. That's actually kind of annoying, but luckily for Max, he did finish the +1 upgrade. We'll have to restart it. Yeah, that's exactly what he does. Mothership is coming. Zerglings are starting to get through to the natural mineral line. Push over here as well on the left side now. Reynor trying to cause chaos everywhere. In the meantime, the Zealots have made their way across. Do they know about the expansion in the bottom right? They do not. I think they would have probably turned their blades towards that section. Oh my god, the Hydras are very far forward. They will be able to get one of the kills right here. But I don't love that, if I'm being honest with you. That was a bit of an overextension. I think it's because he wants to maybe make the transition towards the Corruptor counter, but that was expensive. Yeah, he doesn't quite have that option yet. If he would have gotten the kill at the same time on the Nexus here, I think it would have caused an all-in by MaxPax. But right now, not really quite the case. Spore crawlers are being made over on the low ground, but Max is saying, yo, I have free reign of your main. I don't really mind if I go in there instead. +2 starts up on the fresh new Cybercore. Another Zergling push over on the low ground. The wall is being reconstructed. The Mothership is chasing Zerglings. The lowest tier unit going up against the highest tier unit in the matchup. Somehow Zerglings are still better. Now here's the big question. Do you think the Mothership will live through the very first main fight? This commentator can only guess no. Motherships never live. No. No, they never do. Donnie Vermillion would be proud of my reporting. These bad boys are the main problem. Now, obviously, Vipers are not a cheap unit by any stretch. Motherships are quite a bit cheaper than they once used to be. Are you ready for the yoink? Feedback? Ah, MaxPax was ready for the yoink. Zergling run by again at the front. No Archon over here yet. It's gonna get pushed around a little. Recall is gonna be used right now on a couple of these ground units. And that will once again make the defense a bit easier. Zealots in the bottom right-hand corner have now found that newly constructed base. This one's been mining for a while though. I mean, this is going well for Reynor, but he does need to be a little bit cautious, I think. Because if ultimately MaxPax maxes out, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough for the Zerg to actually hold. Like, yes, he's doing great harassment damage. Currently, his army is decent, but it's mostly mid-game units. Whereas MaxPax is making a lot of these incredibly high-value targets. Right, he's gonna have Storm, he's gonna have Archons, he's gonna have Carriers, he's got the Mothership. Going up against a bunch of Zerglings. Couple Lurkers, couple Hydras. What I'm a little afraid for right now from Reynor, and I know this from many of my own games, is that, like, yeah, you win the entire war, right? Or, like, you win all of the individual fights, but then ultimately you trigger the full-on all-in. And it turns out you can't hold the main, the main bulk of their army. Like, MaxPax is purely trying to play survival right now. 4 bases is all he needs for a maxed out army. And he's gonna be MaxPax out. And it'll be tough, I think, for the Zerg to try and hold that push. That first big engagement is gonna be the big one. Stalkers are trying to get whatever value they can. Zergling run by over here. Zergling run by going around the side again. Storm on the ramp. Yep. Okay. Also, Reynor invested into lurker tech. These lurkers have done basically nothing. They've got their upgrades. Actually, they only got one upgrade. Okay, fair enough. They got an upgrade, but this is all a little mediocre. Greater Spire is coming up. Like, Reynor is obviously ahead as far as the economy goes. He's got decent tech right now too, but it's not like this is a clear-cut victory for him. It's a pretty delicate situation right now. And this is what MaxPax has been trying to work up towards. He's got one hell of an army. Reynor, though, I think he took the correct moment to slow down the game. Yeah. He realized the direction that the game was headed. The Zergling harassment was nice, but at some point you do have to make an army that can actually fight that of the Protoss. And I think Reynor actually is playing this out incredibly cleanly. Okay. Still though, like this is the army that if you ask any ladder hero below like 6,000 MMR, aka 99.9% of the Zerg player base, this is the stuff of nightmares over here, okay? Like, this is an army that is incredibly difficult to kill. I think Reynor has got all the tools at his disposal, and he should be alright, but it's still something he needs to manage properly. Push on the left side of the map in the meantime. This is putting a bit of urgency in MaxPax's play. Good movement here, though. Again, by the Protoss. Reynor is trying to slow this down to the best of his abilities. He's going Corruptors and Hydras. The unit composition of champions. +3 air weapons coming up. I would have loved to see MaxPax take another base. I think that's actually a bit of a no-brainer here, but he decides to not really commit to that. I think, honestly, Reynor's been... He's been feeling like MaxPax has been feeling like he's been behind ever since the Oracle in the early game. Like, ever since the first Adept got surrounded. I'm not even joking. I think ever since that first Adept got surrounded to the slow links at the time, I think that's been the moment where he's been feeling this urgency. And he's trying to make the best of this situation. No feedback right there. So Mothership immediately goes down. Still though, Maximus Paximus is carving a path through all of the Zerg infrastructure. There's once more a Zergling run by. Reynor's signature play. Okay. Reynor does have money here to remake a lot of Corruptors in particular. I think that's probably what he needs to be doing. He's got one Spire still remaining. That's the one inside of the main base. 27 probes have just gone down, by the way, to these run-bys. This is the same position where we previously saw the one Adept hanging out. Its position has been taken over, as the Lurkers actually do a lot of damage to the Templar. They may have just gotten one or two. 6 of them have gone down in total. Nexus still lives. MaxPax only at, 18 workers right now. No minerals in the bank. He can't even remake all of his interceptors at this rate. Needs to be a little bit careful. Gets the kill on the Spire, though. How many Corruptors do we have? Okay, no, never mind. It's more than enough. He's gonna have 33 Corruptors here. Yeah, well done right here by Reynor. I actually love these counterattacks that he's doing. So the fact that he's continuously counterattacking with the Lynx, the Lurkers, the Hydras, with whatever else he's got, it's forced MaxPax to either turn around or to commit. And MaxPax decided to commit, but he ultimately still took a lot of damage to those relatively low tier units from the Zerg player. And as long as he can hold on to this position of the map, right? As long as he can force a fight where the Queens and the Spore Crawlers and whatnot be present, I think he can fight the maxed out swarm of the Protoss quite well. He doesn't have the best upgrades though. And he's very committed to all of the different tech paths. Like, this is a relatively diluted Zerg composition, right? It's not very focused. We have ground, we have melee, we have ranged, we've got flying units, we've got lurk, like we got a little bit of everything. The synergy is there, but It is not that easy. Still though. Nice abductions. He dodges the storms here as well. Corruptors are ready to dive in as soon as all of those Archons die, but apparently we don't have to wait that long, as Reynor wins game number 1. Crimson Court is next. Now, I already started fast-forwarding the match. I was, making the assumption everything was going to be normal up until about the 2-minute mark, but Reynor decided to go for a 12 pool. He's faking the he's faking the natural right now. MaxPax is like, ha! Got your base blocked! Like, if a probe could smile, this guy has got the biggest grin. What it's actually going to be, though, is a hatchery block on the other side of the map. He does scan for the forward base. He scans for the other potential third. Now he realizes that something's fishy. Gonna check one more time. There should be a proxy hatch. Could even be a hatchery in the wall. That's what it is. A hatchery inside of the wall off. With a 12 pool to boot. This is a complete all-in right here from Reynor. At the very least, it needs to deal significant amounts of damage. So the idea is that you can cancel the hatchery to create a massive opener into the, or an opening rather, into the Protoss' base. The hatchery doesn't really need to be here, but Protoss can't effectively wall this off right now. I mean, I think this is actually quite good though. There's no space over here on the left, there's no space over here on the right. I do think you want to cancel this hatch eventually, but he could decide to keep it around. Problem is that he doesn't have the worker count right now. So 12 workers is nothing compared to what Protoss currently has. Even with these workers here at the front, Protoss is still very far ahead in that department, so MaxPax will be happy to dance. Pro players are known for their incredible dancing skills. Protoss players in particular. They dance all day. All day. They dance to their gaming computers. They dance in their chairs. One of them probably has a standing desk. They dance while making void rays. I've been to many gaming after parties. The dancing skills are phenomenal. Now this defense has been incredibly good. Yeah, I think the crisis management here from MaxPax is actually kind of absurd. Because Zerg is still sitting at only, well, just now he made a couple of drones, but he's been sitting on a very low eco. So if you look at the advantage in that department, Max has been ahead by like 3 zealots a minute. He wants to plant down a creep tumor. Did not get the creep tumor down, or at the very least the Zerg managed to, or the Protoss rather, managed to snipe it quickly enough. Probes are still running around. Expertly done right here, actually, by Max. Like, I'm joking about it a little bit, but this is super easy to mess up. Now, what do you do on the back of this, though, right? So you kill the hatchery. Sure, that's a bit of a no-brainer. You then probably make an expansion over here. Sure, bit of a no-brainer. But then what? Do you assume you're very far ahead? Do you go for a timing attack? Do you just play, I don't know, a bunch of oracles and adepts like it's a normal game? Like, all timings from here are gonna be out of whack. Now, one thing to note here is that the Cyber Core is... it might block the Nexus. We're gonna have to find out in a moment. I don't think it does. I am assuming MaxPax has got this keened out pretty well, but there is a chance that the Cyber Core is gonna block a Nexus here. And that would be a disaster. No, he can plant it. Oh my god, dude. He had that defense perfectly mapped out. Now, there's no link speed on the back of this yet for Reynor. That means that these adepts are always a problem. This is the kind of stuff, by the way, as to why I say, like, MaxPax is probably the best Protoss in the world. I love the fact that he had a perfect response prepared for a very niche build order. Specific on this map, And the follow-up here is also extremely good. Gets one more drone on his way out. Excellent, excellent stuff. Okay, so this is apparently the answer. The follow-up is going to be Glaive Adepts. We don't need to follow up. GG. Game number 3. We find ourselves on Goldenaura. Now this time around, I successfully fast-forwarded through the first 2 minutes of the game. No 12 pool, no early game aggression. All we have is a probe, stealing 5 minerals. Look at this guy. That's a thief. Yeah. He stole 5 minerals from the Zerg that Zerg is never gonna get back. Well, if Reynor's original plan was to win through diplomacy, I think that will be thrown out of the window immediately. Stargate opener coming up for MaxPax. Very defensive map, of course, next. So, like, this map is incredibly defensive, so I'm assuming here that we're gonna see a bit more of a normal strat. Shade's gonna be moving in. How many workers is he gonna be able to snipe? That's the real question. Because in game number 1 on Amphion, he never really got a lot of workers going. Oh, 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 jeez. What? Oh my god, what? That was silly. Sorry, I have to go back. As a StarCraft nerd, I have to go and watch that again. That was some of the hottest spore crawler morphins I've ever seen. So here's the first one. So the problem is, I've done this in many of my own games, and you always, like, you need a 2x2 square in order to plant it down, right? So your drones in the mineral line can actually block you pretty easily. It is very easy to mess this sort of thing up. Huh. I mean, that was still 90 minerals worth of cancelled structures. But it's a mental victory more so than anything else. Like, if one of those drones would have died, it would have actually been pretty good for Max. I feel like I feel like Reynor sometimes gets in this groove, you know, where like everything is just feeling good and he is vibing. I don't know if we can really call Reynor an emotional player. But he's definitely a little bit more... Yeah, a little bit more momentum-based, I would say, as for example, Serral. I always compare the two because, well, they're from the same country of Europe. One of my favorite countries, by the way. And obviously they also play on the same team. Both of them are in Basilisk. But they play the game very differently, which is fun. Many people have wondered whether or not Serral has emotions. But you know what? This one time, when he won the World Cup the first time around, he actually had tears in his eyes. Yeah. Turns out he may have feelings. Either that or his, I don't know. Maybe one of his routines was malfunctioning. Now this is good though. Yeah, 4 drones. Not a bad start, at least for the Oracles. Now they're kind of just hanging out in the corner. Oracle number 3 over here on the left side of the map is going to scout the 4th hatchery. Not much he can do about it, but at least he knows where it's going to be built. Interestingly enough, Reynor does not put it right over here. Robo facility. And we'll start the dance. We can dance if we want to. Now, as discussed, Protoss players love dancing. Wonderful little Ling run by here. It doesn't seem like a lot, but this is very likely to set plans in motion once again for Reynor. Those Oracles will likely need to be recalled, because the Queens are stuck in the corner. I mean, maybe they can go through the natural or the main base or something, but it's still... Actually, you know what? The Queens just moved. Bit unlucky right there for Reynor. Yeah, it's funny how, like, when you nerf... So Zerg has gotten nerfed a couple times, right, over the last year or so. Maps may not also be ideal for Zerg right now, whatever, right? But as soon as, like, you nerf a race in StarCraft, like, suddenly the players are like, okay, you know what? It is time to power up! Like, for years, for example, we never used to see Burrow play. Or, like, there's a lot of tools at your disposal that just don't really seem very significant at all. But as soon as, like, you end up nerfing, well, certain strategies a couple of times, suddenly they're really reaching for those extra, you know, half percentage points here and there. And Reynor and Dark alike have been really impressing me in that department. They've been doing a really fun job. Squeezing as much Zerg juice out of whatever they can. Another mid-game follow-up. Got ourselves a Spire this time around. He's decided to skip the Banelings. He's decided to delay the Roach Warren for a long time too. This has just been Zerglings. Technically a little bit risky here. But overall, not a bad play at all if you can get away with it. Reynor not really suspecting apparently a Glaive Adept follow-up or something like that. This is likely going to be MaxPax's map pick, I guess? Well, maybe not actually. It's a little hard to say. Since Amphion was last. Maybe it is. Spire is going to finish though. +1 melee links are phenomenal against Stalkers at this stage in the game. So they will be enough, and that means that all the gas, look at the resources right now for Reynor. All the gas can be dropped onto Mutalisks. He gets the surround over here too. Where's those Oracles? Oracles don't have energy? Oh, yeah. This is going from bad to worse. This is like the easy part of the defense right now for Max. Those 17 Mutalisks on the back of it, those are the real issue. Those queens, by the way, never got the memo that the Oracles have already left. Karen and Margaret took their jobs of defending against these Oracles really seriously. They were just not notified that those Oracles already slipped away through the natural. Anyways, here come the Mutas. What do you do when you're suddenly forced to deal with Mutas? Well, apparently Reynor, he is feeling like he can just fight that Protoss army straight up. Normally it's an harassment unit, but when you just killed about 80% of them, I guess you can dive in with the Mutas as well. Alcyone. 4th game in this best of 5 series and match point for Reynor. What can we do, Max? This freaking Italian man has been one step ahead. I feel like... I don't have the numbers for this, but I feel like the games where I see the very first Adept die with 0 kills... Right? The very first Adept that goes across the map, this guy right over here. I would... If I were to make a guess, I think when Protoss loses this one for free and get no value out of it, they lose the game about 90% of the time. I pulled that number out of nowhere. I don't have any data to back it up. But I've seen so many games of high-level StarCraft where the first Adept dies, and the game just sort of... Well, I mean, it's not over. It sometimes takes 15 minutes for it to ultimately be done. But I really think the statistics are heavily in favor of Zerg when the first Adept goes down. It's my working theory. We'll have to pay attention to it, okay? So game number 1 and game number 3, the Adept died, got no value. Reynor wins. Game number 2, Reynor went for a 12 pool with a hatchery block. It was fun. It was impressive. But ultimately, Max was a little bit too good for that. Now, he keeps the Adept alive. It's straight glaives, by the way, too. So we're not going Stargate at all. Okay, then. Very quick Roach Warren for Reynor. He is expecting a 3rd Nexus at this point, but he does not see it. He's seen the timing of the 2nd gateway. Gas is over here in the natural expansion. He's been paying attention to the gateway production, and apparently all of this is to say that he needs a Roach Warren much quicker than in the previous games. And he is certainly correct, because if he decided to go for +1 melee into a lair and then eventually aspire to get it with a Roach Warren, right? Like, it would be much too late against an Adept push. So nice movement right here by Reynor. At least he knows what he's roughly playing against. And now he's going to see these Adepts going across the map. Sees the Warp Prism as well. He's gonna need to make units. Only 38 drones, by the way. So in this situation, Reynor can't really afford to lose any worker. Robo Bay on the back of this too. Now, sadly, he planted it down right within the vision range right there of that Overlord. I would imagine here Reynor is going to be fine against the Adepts. Still a little delicate. You can see he's starting to sneak out a few additional drones. Okay. Main problem is the lack of a third Nexus, right? So whatever Max does right now, yes, at this point his income is going to be slightly greater than that of the Zerg. But as soon as this is reliably held, Reynor is going to drone up to like 55, 60-ish workers. And it's going to be tough to continue playing the game. Really? He's going Gravitic Drive together with Disruptors. So this is the speed upgrade for the Warp Prism. It's kind of like a Brood War strategy now. Like, we're kind of going like 2-base Reaver drops. Which is generally not a very popular strategy in StarCraft 2. Now, a third Nexus is coming. But this one is 2 minutes later than a conventional third Nexus. Now, he's been dancing on the other side of the map with the Adepts. And Zerg's economy here is certainly not amazing, but has this been justified? I like the fact that he's changing it up, though. Ultimately, well handled by Reynor. Now you're also in that weird situation, as Reynor decides to once more go Spire here. You're in this weird situation now as MaxPax, where like, yeah, you got the Twilight Council upgrade, and yeah, you got these Adepts, but you kind of don't want to have Adepts. Like, this is the type of game where Adepts are actually kind of terrible. So you need to do something with them soon. Because the longer that this goes on, the less value the Adepts will generate. Yeah, in a straight-up fight against Roaches, they just don't do anything useful. Here's the Disruptors, though! Okay. Tried to drag those units off creep. Love this one Dropper Lord, by the way. Oh, nice detonation regardless. A couple Stalkers get warped in as well. Yeah, I mean, if you have the right fight, there's certainly a chance the Adepts manage to get into the mineral line over at the third. A lot of Zerglings here are headbutting. Gonna start targeting a few of the drones down. Just 2, though. Okay. Spire is almost done. And the Spire with Mutas, obviously, can be used very effectively to chase down the Disruptors. Some nice hits over here. Hello, we should probably bring our cargo. Yeah, not a bad idea. Baneling Nest. Recall right now on that Prism, so it's going to be brought back to the third. And that means it's going to be useful against the Roaches for the base defense as well. Colossus is coming. Is there enough right now for MaxPax to defend at home? He's already shown us some phenomenal base defense earlier on in this series. The Spire, by the way, did not do anything yet. Like, the Spire has been here, but that's about it. Okay. Couple Roaches over at the third base, sniping whatever probe they can. Roaches sneak into the main base in a natural expansion too. They will all get cleaned up. Question is, did they deal enough damage? MaxPax has been reduced to just 46 workers. Now Mutas are coming. Fourth base building over here as well, over at the gold mineral line. Reynor, absolute treat to watch. Very impressive. Now, this is a scary attack though. The Mutas are not going to be good in the fight. They're going to be great for the counter-attack, but they're not going to be good in the straight-up fight. And I think MaxPax, I mean, he's not quite going all in, but he is very committed. And I wonder if maybe the Mutas here are actually a bit too much. I wonder if he should have made 9 Ravagers here instead of 9 Mutas. Oh, he's got 10 Mutas, 4 more coming. Because this is a scary fight. That Colossus is going to be incredibly good against Zerglings. There's the Mutas coming in. They're going to dive onto the Prism. Prism does end up going down, so no easy reinforcements, but that was costly. More Stalkers are building. A couple drones will get sniped. Gold base, though, is here. You can tell that MaxPax is ignoring it because he feels like he needs to get more. Just killing a gold base is not enough. Reinforcing Protoss units are going across the map. He's trying to bring everything together. Nice blinking here. Blinking one group forward, the other one back. Zerglings and Mutas trying their best. Additional reinforcements are warped in the natural expansion. Battery overcharge over there too. Photon cannon and a shield battery in the third are gonna prevent that Zerg army from jumping in that direction. The one Colossus, man. I love the pushes where you have a Colossus without the ranged upgrade. Like, Colossi are considered kind of like... It's kind of like Ultras without the armor upgrade, you know? Like, it's a bit of a no-brainer to get the ranged upgrade, because that makes the unit actually good. But sometimes you have these games where the low HP, the low-range Colossus is incredibly worthwhile. A couple of the Disruptors, they blow up Zerglings, but at the same time, they also end up killing Stalkers. The Colossus ultimately falls. Max is still on the offensive, though, and his army supply at this point is significantly bigger. He's left 1 or 2 units over at the gold base, and they have quickly made, well, made do with that mineral line. It's just Blink Stalkers and 1 Disruptor at this point. The Hatch is going to die. And MaxPax may have just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Great crisis management, man. Ay, ay, ay. I feel like Reynor should not have gone Spire at all. I think the Spire was a misplay. And in hindsight, he would certainly agree. There were many situations where it would have made him look brilliant, but this was not one of them. MaxPax decided to flip a coin. Tried to make the best of a bad situation, because he was at like 40-something workers going up against 70-something. That was a difficult way to come back, but he manages to get it done. And that means it all comes down to this. Ghost River. Final map in this best of 5 series. I'm overall more impressed by Reynor. But there's no denying that MaxPax is incredibly good. He's once more going Twilight Council. I mean, I don't know if the Twilight Council opener really made the game easier for him in the previous one. Like, yeah, it was a win. But I don't think it was due to the Adepts. Let's see. Obviously, he could go into Glaives again. I think that's the most likely option. But he could go into Blink. Could go into Charge. Nah, he's not. It has to be Glaives, no? The other openers just don't make sense. Against Terran, you would normally go into Blink right about right now, but yeah. It once again has to be Glaives. It's just such a finicky upgrade, right? It's so easy to not get the value you're looking for, and well, we saw what happens in that previous game. Like, yeah, he won, but it wasn't due to these guys. Don't tell the Adepts. They believe they're contributing quite a bit. But it's really the Stalker follow-up that did the trick. Okay. A lot of additional gateways. A robo facility has been added into the mix too. How many gates are we gonna produce? He's got 4 or 5. Okay. Are we just going like a full all-in? Like just an old school Adept all-in? So when the Adept was first introduced, right? This was 2015? I think so. God, that's a while ago. Anyways, when the Adept was first introduced, RTS players had never seen a unit that moves around like the Adept before. And it took months before players realized how you actually deal with these guys. These days, they're considered to be a stepping stone more so than anything else. They're kind of nice, right? You can sometimes deal damage with them, but MaxPax is going for basically just a complete all-in. I mean, he can go for another base, but I don't think that's the plan. I am fairly sure he is planning on just making a lot of Adepts on the other side of the map and crossing his fingers and hoping that Zerg is not going to be ready for it. And this is a very ballsy play. I don't think it's a good build. But I mean, he may have picked up on something that Reynor has done so far in this series that gives him this idea. Like in the previous game, I think he only had 4 gateways in total. So he's like, yo, what if I make more than that, right? Like, what if I make more? He barely defended against my 4 gates. What if I just make a whole lot more gateways and I make a whole lot more adepts? Problem is he's on a timer, and this is not a good start. Going back home right now is not an option, so he decides to make a battery over there. Fair enough. We have a couple adepts over at the third, but Reynor has sent the drones towards the natural already. This means that he has a lot less surface area to defend. Here's the commitment. Adept goes in the main base. Drones have run away for now. Reynor has the perfect economy to deal with all of this. As long as he does not lose a mineral line, obviously, he is gonna be a-okay. Cancels the shade down towards the low ground. Shield battery at home in the meantime does finish up, so he's gonna be defended against any sort of counterattack from Zerglings for now. I think Reynor is doing this really well. Yeah. No, I think Reynor has done a really good job defending against this so far. He's not out of the water yet, but basically, like, the bigger the roach count, the easier this is going to be. Adepts suck against roaches. This is gonna be a multi-layered push, though, apparently, from Max, as he decides to go into immortal production. Fair enough. But the economy has been preserved here, and that's the most important part. He's trying to see if he can get the kill on the third nex, or the third nexus. The Zerg nexus over here. If he can get the kill on that, that would be massive. Don't think it's gonna happen, though. Prism going around the side. Don't lose the... Oh, my God. If you lose the Prism here, I think it's game. You are not allowed to lose the Prism. Even Reynor was like, really? I sent 3 queens here just on the chance that... But, like, really? Nah, okay. An evolution chamber is gonna be the name of the game. Massive Zerg flood at the bottom of the map. If Reynor can get the cancel on the opponent's third base, I think he's gonna be in a really nice position, but this is basically an extended all-in. Protoss has not really been making a ton of workers, so this third nexus, it almost feels like bait. I don't even know if he plans on mining the third nexus if he doesn't need to. I mean, he's going for it, so probably, but here we go. Immortals in the front, they take that little barrier ability down immediately. Okay, the queens have to run together with the roaches, and I think if he turns his guns to the third, that third base is going to die. In the meantime, though, on the other side of the map, third nexus here from MaxPax is also going to fall. Okay, so 2 base versus 2 base. Reynor's supply count right now is good. Queens are on creep, so they can use their transfusion ability. This is a fake shade. It's always going to be a fake shade at this point, because the immortals are going to be unprotected, and I think the queen energy may just be a little bit too much here. He's been saving that up for a good long while. MaxPax coming in clutch here, finds the shade into the base, forced to recall. Reynor holds on. He's been dealing with an extended Protoss all-in right now for, well, the better part of 5 minutes. Getting a kill on that base would be big. Oh, no. Cancel. No kill. Starts it up once more. Okay. Now the roaches are ready to go to the other side of the map. Robo Bay is going to finish up in about a half minute. Shield battery will not be able to overcharge, so maybe Zergling run-bys are once again an option. MaxPax is thinking the same thing. He decides to build another one. Okay, with some good juggling, these roaches can actually take quite a beating right here from these immortals, and that's why they decide to run back to the creep. Okay, now we're in that weird scenario, though, where the main base is gonna run out. We're nearly 9 minutes into the game, and that means that Protoss, yeah, is gonna need an expansion before too long. That's also why Reynor is remaking this base. He's got the same issue, of course. But it's much easier for Zerg to take a base than it is for Protoss to take one. He's gonna go and build a Templar Archives together with a Nexus. Okay, so I think he wants to go Immortal Archon Zealot all-in or something like that on the back of this. I'm a little afraid that it's too long away. I'm a little afraid that Reynor is just gonna be able to power up more and more of the same. And that ultimately it will just turn into a numbers game here for Max. He needs to do something. Don't lose the Prism. That's not the one thing we need to do. He made a robotics bay, but there has not been any use with it yet. I think the original plan was to go Disruptors. But now that the roaches have their speed upgrade and the amount of links that are available, yeah, he does start up some Disruptors in the in the main in the meantime, but... If Reynor can get the kill on the third Nexus, that seals the deal. Okay. Reynor's gonna go into Banelings. Now that is... Whew. That is a dangerous play. Anytime you go Banelings with less than 60 workers, you are effectively all in. He goes +1 melee, second Evo chamber. Tunneling Claws coming up too. Burrow is researching. Okay. So I was thinking something like Swarm Host would make a lot more sense. But Reynor decides to go for Roach Ravager Ling Bane, which is usually a good unit composition to play off of like 90 drones. I think it's gonna lead to an all-in. I think he's gonna have one shot. MaxPax is threatening here. I don't think he actually wants to push. Unless he sees an opportunity. I don't think he's brave enough to go deep onto creep. He just secured the third. He doesn't really need to do something like that. Although, I say that, he's making a lot of additional gateways at this point in time. Problem is, yeah, he made that forge, and the forge upgrade just fired up. So I don't really see him committing hard right now. He doesn't have an observer nearby. Where's the observer? There it is. I think we're just doing a little bit of spring cleaning over here. Just getting rid of some of the creep. Maybe get a couple of the roaches sliced off. Not bad. I wonder if this is too much of a commitment, man. Reynor is going heavy into an early mid-game army. How many Banelings are we on? 9? Okay. Nice Purification Nova. Still, though, the amount of stuff that Reynor has might just be a little bit too much. He decides to collapse on top of that Protoss army. Purification Novas are no longer part of this game, and... well, the Corrosive Biles did ultimately kill that Prism, but MaxPax was already out of the game, and with that, already out of the series. What a banger of a final game. That was really good.